So let's sit into this reality. Let's be here with the concerns of this nation. Be here into my body, into this space, embodying here in this place where I grew up, where these values are taught and sown so deeply. This is where I speak from. That familiarity, that grounding. I remember who I am. These are my roots. I remember who I am. The Jimmy Kimmel Show. Jimmy Kimmel made some comments. Yeah, then his show is canceled by the FCC. And so now this is part of the conquest conversation. So I will do my best effort here to explain what we're feeling with that issue, because to me it's very black and white. To me it's very conquest and communion. But some of us who are a part of the conquest narrative, because the conquest narrative is all about, feeling entitled to something because of the name of God. So if you grew up religious, this is regarding us. There is a conquest Christianity and there's a communion Christianity. Communion is the genuine experience of God. Like you gather with people who aren't like you, and you commune. You experience God together. You become God together. There's an embodiment that happens. And then there's the conquest of Christianity, where there's a line. Here's where the nation of God defeats the nation of something else. One is very Old Testament. The other one is New Testament. Christ teaches us that he is the new law. But isn't it funny how still in the name of Christ, Christ's name can be used for conquest, just like it was in the Old Testament. That's what happens when we are exposed to the teaching of Christ with its past wound of conquest together. They didn't have to be together. You can just teach the teachings of Christ, if you like. Separate it from the conquest narrative. But the conquest narrative is right there, right behind it. And we are literally repeating that loop. It's, when Christ the Messiah came, there was talk of like, is he going to be a warrior to fight more conquest? Where is he? But Christ came out all communion. And so we remember that part of the story. But yet it's happening again, isn't it? It is happening again. We are looking to this rallying cry of conquest Christianity, of a conquest Christ. When Christ was not a conquest Christ, he was a communion Christ. Right? So we have to make this distinction very, very clear. Conquest Christianity is a conditioning, and the other, the communion Christianity, to me, I think it's the real thing. Because we're feeling the kumbaya moment. We're like, it's modeled around us. We're like, getting along, writing songs together, bringing in celebrities, associating it with a brand, artistry and capitalism mixed together. That's what I see when I see the Jimmy Kimmel Show cancellation. And then there are sides of it that's like, it's a matter of ratings. It's a matter of this or that. I remember being on both parts of the conversation. And to me, being on both sides of the conversation, what I remember most is this conquest perception. This conquest perception, which was allowed to switch. Like sometimes I could feel the communion of it all, but other times I could just switch it off. Because the God I remember from the Old Testament was very conquest-based. That's what the patterns look like. The old law. The one that Christ rebooted, walking the embodiment of communion. Do we remember that? I remember that. Yes, we remember that. So then we have to take a look at conquest Christianity for what it is. What is that? What is conquest Christianity separate from communion Christianity? I study filmmaking. Filmmaking is based on the principles of image juxtaposition. It's associating two images together, because once you have those two images together, suddenly you start telling a story. See a blank face with a bowl of soup. This face is hungry. Blank-faced man and a woman. amorous or lustful. By changing the images, we change the story. That's the basis of filmmaking. The Russian filmmaker who was responsible for this philosophy, his work was fundamental for the Nazi Party to create films. It's the fundamentals of propaganda. So conquest happened. It peaked at the dropping of 2 atomic bombs. Ever since then, we've been in a post-atomic trauma. The youngest generation during the time of the atomic bomb is the boomer generation. It's the ages of our presidents and our leaders and our world leaders now. So they are operating from the shadow. The trauma response to a global wound of conquest. But there were other discoveries that happened in the 1940s, right after that trauma wound, that opened up another perspective. So that there were 2. I remember watching one of the latest Indiana Jones movies. There were some Nazis that were hired by Washington, by CIA, to learn these principles of conquest, of propaganda. Like, I saw it there in the Steven Spielberg film, like, whoa! And as a person who loves film, it's very easy to kind of see how the films since the 1940s, the late 1940s, like 50s and 60s, already there was an impression being made. Christmas became very national and Christian. 1950s, 60s, that's the magic of the best Christmas animated specials. Church, nation, and holiday, Christmas, all fused in one. Like, we got it down. But the reason why I bring these things up is because sometimes we see our leadership acting like a role. If he plays this person in a reality show, he's always going to say the same type of lines. He's going to be that character and do, right? Just like movies and TV, just like a reality show. It's going to have its programming. And I think that's where a lot of us get disconnected from the narrative. And we're like thinking, what the hell is going on? What is going on? Like, we're not like this. Who's driving this? Why is this like front and center? I think it's conquest. I think it's the conquest code. We all operated off of the conquest code or the communion code. So this is not about shame. This is about education. This is just about being aware. Because when we see it, it just gives us some relief. Like, oh, that's what's happening. We don't have to feel like we're stuck on this train. It's like, oh, okay. He's fulfilling that role. Because just because he says something, it's in the name of God, that doesn't mean that's got to be the same thing for me. My belief in God can be different than how he carries it. It doesn't pull me along. I have my autonomy. I have my sovereignty. You see how that feels? So the pulling along feels kind of rapey. Feels rapey. Feels like the spiritual rape of the name of Christ. So I call that out into the open so we can feel it together and like, oh, okay. And then we know where we're going. We know what train we're on. So the conquest part of America is happening. It's like the empire code. And then there's the communion part of America that's happening. That is nation, that is family, that's communion. That's us seeing this code of conquest and like, what? As a believer of Christ, I remember how it feels to get behind the statements in the name of God because we want to believe in something. We want to put that faith in something. Like, okay, good. And so we front load our faith. We front load it. But this can also take the power from ourselves and that authentic embodied God experience from ourselves. So instead of front loading our faith, I think we want to hold it in us, keep it embodied in us. This is your faith. This is our faith. And then let God speak to you through your body. Let God be communion between you and your body. And then from that internal communion, you reflect that communion outside. Because some of us may think of God in a conquest form. God is he's the one in here that separates what's sin. It's like East and West Germany, right? So you just put up the barbed wire and all this and from the 80s. But yeah, okay, so I'm going to do a little shift here. I'm going to talk about sexuality. I'm going to reference a virgin Christ and an erotic Christ. Now, this does not mean you have to believe in an erotic Christ. This can be like concept, only concept. I lived out the virgin Christ. I lived that out. And there is a true peace and zen in not being attached to sexuality. Because obviously if you're attached to it, you can get really disembodied by being too embodied, which has happened with me. So we don't lose that integrity. But we also look at the possibility, like a paradox, of what wisdom comes through when we do consider an erotic Christ, right? So when I talk about it, this is not an attack on theology. This is an expansion of theology. And our belief, we have a Christ who is virgin, we have a Christ's mother who is also a virgin. So we don't have any perfect examples of holy sexuality. It's just kind of missing. So when that's missing, there's no accountability. And people can do things in rapey, conquesty ways, and they won't know the difference. They'll just say, hey, this is going to be in the name of God, just like Charlton Heston. And folks are just supposed to believe it. Do you see how that happens? So I think there's an embodied ignorance that we have by missing an erotic Christ, by missing a narrative of the Son of God coming from natural sex. I mean, just imagine what that would do. What would that do to all the women who felt shame around sexuality? What would that do if the mother of Christ had sex? I think it would dignify it. Can you imagine all of that shame power folks have had over women? That leverage of the shame thing? Sounds like conquesty, rapey to me. That is not the communion of Christ. I shouldn't be using that language. I'm sorry. I just get angry and vehement. Because there is a unjustness, but then you regulate that anger into communion by first starting a communion between you and spirit and body, you and God. This is what I'm modeling for you now. Take it there first. I'm back in my body. And this is much easier to do if we don't shame the body, if we don't demonize the body just because it has sex. All right, so now that's the end of that paradoxical possibility. We're now going to close up that subject from erotic Christ to just virgin Christ, just close that back in. And we can take that embodied knowing with us, that emotion that I modeled for you. We can take that emotion with us and then let that inform us. Let that wisdom, that gnosis, be embodied. Okay? So we're back in our bodies. And everything's okay here. That's where we left off. And then once you're okay in here with all parts of you, then that's how you see your brother. That's how you see, the conquest side. Like, hey, conquest, let's commune. I'm emotionally tired. Learn to love myself, and like, oh, that sounds great. How about a love and hug across conquest communion lines? Like, yeah, sure. And then when you're hugging, there is no conquest communion lines because it's all communion. The lines disappear. You see how that magic works? Magic. So that is the magic of the communion code. We mentioned the conquest code. Some folks have to be the meme who have to replay the propaganda film. You got to play out the propaganda film. You got to say the same lines. Beep, 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 beep. And when I look at it that way, it's like, oh, okay. I get it. Then when you're embodied and you see it, you always see it. You always see it. And you don't have to get angry or feel out of control or undignified. So you can always come to this frequency here to stay clear, right? This is one of the intents in starting the online magazine. So let me tell you what I've done. I have started a Mighty Network page. And I would like to see if we can cultivate community over there. I'm going to post this both on this Facebook page and I will post this on the space over there just to see what happens. those who subscribe to that space, they will also be able to see 3 of my holy erotica films, the 3 holy erotica films that changed my life. They taught me 3 fundamental things, that sex and spirit are same. If sex and spirit are same, both expand, spirituality and sexuality. And when both of those expand, love expands. And I just discovered this natural expansion of my heart. By teaching these things and cultivating conversation around it so we can develop these neuroplastic grooves with it, and having a space to embody that, I think that'll be very helpful. So that's the intention of this space. $15 a month, just starting off there. It's the space just to have this container where we can be in this frequency. You could probably feel more safe to comment if you like. If these things that if you want to conversate about these things, but it's been hard to do that here on Facebook, that will be a safer space to do that. The biggest value of that space is it's the shared frequency of communion that we're all choosing to amplify together. And that is what that subscription fee means. It is a love economy gift. It is an offering where you are making a decision to embody this frequency of communion and to help hold that space. And so it is a self-promise that you're making. So it's not the traditional purchase of content that is shown for free, but it's the space that we're creating. From that space, you have choice into a more holy space where we're going to embody eroticism like it's spirituality. And there's some common agreements there too. We're all gonna zero in on these 3 agreements and see how that feels. Let's see if we can hit that. If there's only 2 of us, hey, it says in scripture where 2 or 3 are gathered by, in my name. We just need 3 of us. Well, 2 of you, 1 of me, I'll make 3. So let's try it. Let's try it. That'll give you a month. That will give us a chance to stay in that space for a month. See what we can cultivate there together. But if you also have narratives and stories of conquest and communion, if some things are starting to articulate, just state those thoughts here in the space. Let's conversate. We are all the teachers in that space. We are all the teachers. And we're all the students. And we're all holding the space together. That's the intention. So give that a try. That's available now. Check out gospelofthebody.org to get instructions of how to get there. Let's make it a good experiment. And I hope that you step in here, you feel a body communion, you share that frequency with me. Basically, it's a paid space to get closer to my frequency. Yeah, and then whatever you learn in this shared space, you return, you go back, and you have that gnosis to apply. That's all it is. That's all it is. I will be making offerings and so forth in there, but really the magic sauce is just sharing the frequency with me, because I've taken that journey, and what I've learned is that, you don't have to feel like, oh, I need to take this whole journey too. Just being with someone who has been there, with the heart to, not to confuse, but to clarify. That's all you need. You just need community. You need a discipline of community. And then you get it. You will have it. You've probably already lived your conquest communion arc. You just needed that lens to see, and then boom, suddenly you're an expert. And we amplify that space together. That's what we're doing. Okay? All right.